I've never seen this in my career, and I will never see it again.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a quick update for you today here with South Bay Rod and Gun Club v. Bonta, or maybe that is a thing of the past. We have a quick update here, and we brought Chuck Michelle on, who is the CRPA president. Chuck, thank you very much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
So if you want to check out the background to this lawsuit, we just put out a video on it. It's going to appear right here in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. But for now, we have an update. Apparently, Gavin Newsom's attorney general has decided this isn't a lawsuit that he wants to litigate anymore. Chuck, can you go ahead and update us on that?
Yeah, last night we got word that the California Department of Justice and the attorney general had decided that they could not defend and were declining to defend SB 1327's provision that basically makes it impossible to challenge gun control laws on Second Amendment grounds, because it makes attorneys and parties liable for the state's attorney's fees and makes it impossible for attorneys and parties to recover their fees when they win. So he had Newsom. This was Newsom's little brainchild in response to the Texas abortion law that did effectively the same thing. And so he had huge press conferences about how he was going to use this to shut down Second Amendment constitutional lawsuits. We challenged it down in San Diego and had to get this fee shifting provision, this roadblock out of the way before we could go forward with our Duncan and Rhodey and other CRPA Second Amendment cases. And we forced the DOJ to finally admit that this law was indefensible, that it was unconstitutional, that they had argued that it was unconstitutional when they were supporting or opposing the law in Texas. And so they could not now talk out of the other side of their mouth and basically say the exact opposite of what they said in Texas. So last night they notified the court that they were not going to defend the law. And coincidentally, it came just a few hours after we filed a notice with the Department of Justice that we were going to seek sanctions if they actually continued to defend the law that they had said was unconstitutional in Texas. And then we got notice from the governor's office that he was going to try and intervene because the DOJ will not defend the law anymore. The governor's now going to try and intervene and take over that job. So apparently the DOJ got the message that this law is indefensible and agreed and finally admitted to the court that it couldn't defend the case. But Governor Newsom hasn't gotten that message yet.
Well, that's sort of what I was curious about. So reading between the lines here, the California Attorney General decided that this was an indefensible lawsuit. He's pulling himself out. That doesn't necessarily mean that we've won the lawsuit yet. It's going to continue and be litigating, if I'm understanding this correctly, just by Gavin Newsom's team itself, not the Attorney General. Is that correct?
Well, the Attorney General is still part of the lawsuit. We named him as a defendant, so he doesn't get out of the lawsuit, but he can no longer. He has just told the court, I'm not going to file anything that says an argument that says this law is constitutional. Now the governor wants to parachute into the middle of the case and file that brief that says it is constitutional. So the governor's lawyers will do that rather than the DOJ's lawyers. But the DOJ is still part of the case. Now this is not a done deal. We just got these papers hours ago. So we are the intervention motion from the governor. So we are looking into whether or not he even has the right to do this. I mean, the governor is not, the attorney general's job is to defend the laws of the state. That's his constitutional role. Right. I'm not sure why the governor or whether the governor can actually kind of just step into his shoes and take over the defense of a state law. So we'll probably oppose him trying to intervene.
Right. So this might not be over, but it is a big deal, right? I mean, we basically have the attorney general. Deal.
You're never going to. I've never seen this in my career, and I will never see it again. The only other time that the attorney general has declined to defend a state law that I'm aware of was in the Prop 8 Defense of Marriage Act case, where that passed, and Kamala Harris, when she was the Attorney General, declined. It passed as a referendum. The public voted in a law that said marriage has to be between a man and a woman, and Kamala Harris declined to defend that referendum, and it was ultimately struck down by the Supreme Court. But it's not something that happens, ever, where the DOJ just says, I can't defend this case. I can't defend this law. We're dropping out. Imagine the conversations at the DOJ's office as his lawyers, as the AG's lawyers were telling him, we can't defend this case. It's unethical. We can't argue out of the different things in different cases. It's inconsistent and it's unethical. So then he has to call the governor's office and tell the governor that his office can't defend the case anymore. Now the governor's got to figure out what to do. So yeah, it's fun to watch, but it almost never happens. It's a gigantic win to finally, we had to force the DOJ to finally admit that their position was that this law is unconstitutional. They tried to avoid that by saying, we're not going to pursue fees. They tried to moot the case by agreeing that they wouldn't use this statute, but they couldn't get out of it. And so now they're stuck. So there'll still be a trial on the 16th on this, but now it will be the governor's lawyers, I guess, if they successfully get in, we're contesting it, that will be trying to defend the law.
So, is that, does that basically turn spiteful legislation into spiteful litigation? You're telling me that we've gotten the DOJ to admit that this is an unconstitutional law. The governor's head attorney in the state is saying he can't defend it. So I guess the question remains, why would Gavin Newsom want to try and defend his case here when everyone around him is telling him that it shouldn't be defended?
Well, it's his little brainchild. This is his baby. He pushed this, promoted it, held press conferences about it, bragged about it, and also wanted to be able to use it to stop us from challenging California's unconstitutional gun control laws. So now he's losing that roadblock that he wanted to set up to stop us from being able to challenge all his laws. Meantime, we've got lawsuits challenging his laws everywhere. So,
yeah, I guess it's just kind of a shame that the only people that lose are the taxpayers who continue to fund this sort of legislation and litigation for the opposing side. But Chuck, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate the update. We're going to try to get this out to as many people as we can. So if you can, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. We're really trying to get this out to as many people as possible so that they can follow along with these lawsuits as well. Thank you guys very much, and we'll be at you with another one soon.